something that's in your adopted budget goals and objectives for 2012 is to look for opportunities for consolidation on advisory boards and commissions. So it seems like it's worthwhile looking into this. I wonder if, but I also respect there may be some time sensitivity on getting started on this, Stuart.
Well, I think that needs to be determined by the boards. We're ready to proceed right now with putting this together. If the board wants to look at a slightly different format for this advisory council, then obviously now would be the time to do it before it's formed, so that we don't have to go back to the drawing board if the format that we have chosen or that is recommended today ends up not being what you would desire.
And my sense is what you've proposed here is completely appropriate for this particular purpose, and the question is whether we can get any kind of twofer.
Yeah. Well, and if the well, a couple different things. One is a lot of this water quality is the state's responsibility, I think, and yet we haven't had adequate water quality monitoring. I don't think either in saltwater or particularly on a lot of our streams. We have a real lack of data that's consistent, and that's real unfortunate. That really should have been part of the state's vision for watershed planning when they created the act way back in the 90s. But in the app, with the state budget cuts and looking at how that might impact those, we end up with a question of, are there times where we ought to step up and monitor it just for our own purposes, so that we know. And I think there's a kind of a push-pull in the community with that. There's a lot of people who desire to have good water quality, and a lot of people desire to have that information, of having the data to make good decisions on all of our streams. And yet, I think a lot of people, don't want an extra fee or an extra tax or to have anything increased. And at the local level, when they look at it as being a state responsibility, and yet that isn't really being fulfilled. So you're left with that dilemma of where you go with this. So maybe this is a kind of board that actually could look at those kind of situations too, and just say, okay, where does this fit? I don't think when we look at the models that we have out there that any of them are really meeting the need right now, and that was the push behind trying to get changes to the Watershed Management Act last session, which I think will probably proceed. My experience with water law has been that it takes a long time to get things changed.
Yeah, I would, the monies that Public Health Department receives from the district are used to match the state grants. So it's meant to leverage state funds. So in other words, the state is basically delegating to us the funds necessary to address water quality problems. We also get money from the State Department of Health to address septic issues, septic local management plan implementation issues. So there is money coming in. There's also money from the EPA coming in as well. And that money is being broken out into 4 different parts and is currently being made available for application. And so there's money to do water quality work. What we don't have in Jefferson County, and we haven't had, is we've had monitoring, but it's all project-based. It's not, in Kitsap County, we have an ongoing trend monitoring program that covers the whole county, saltwater, lakes, streams, etc. Over the years, what we've tried to do is minimize the cost of that program and maximize cleanup efforts. So now we're down to handle Kitsap County, it costs us, I think, just under $200,000 per year to have a county-wide trend monitoring program. So that kind of gives you an idea of what the cost might be to actually. So we could not implement such a program locally right now. We don't have the funds. What we could look at doing is leveraging some of the money from the state to do a pilot program for a 2-year period, and then see how that works. And we could use Clean Water District funds to leverage that. That's certainly one of the things that we're looking at, because it's better to have an ongoing program than to do a piecemeal. And then, obviously one of the main goals of that is to prevent shellfish downgrades, which is a huge industry here in Jefferson County. That's one of the things we always tell people, is one of the reasons is, everything's flushing downstream to the saltwater, and this is where we have harvesters working. And we need to make sure that we have clean water. Clean water is a key for Jefferson County's future, so that's one thing that these projects can provide. But a county-wide monitoring program would set up triggers that would enable us to be less reactionary and more, be able to plan for stuff.
Yeah, and that's a good clarification. I'm actually well aware that the state hasn't totally abandoned these efforts.
No, they haven't.
But the comprehensive program really isn't there throughout Puget Sound. I would think that it'd be real easy to compare counties to counties, streams to streams, because things were so standardized, and we've been out there saying, this is important, we should be doing this, not just now, but we're probably going to need to do it forever. And that really takes that kind of coordinated statewide approach. And so, been pushing for that for a long time, but the absence of that, we're doing what we can, and have actually made a lot of progress in some areas, we say with some of our members.
It does strike me that state and federal law have driven towards water quality from a number of different perspectives. There's the overall Clean Water Act, but there's also the issue of protection of shellfish. There's the issue that drove the raya formation, which was an endangered species. Right. And so, but water quality is water quality. And so it does strike me that we've sort of inherited these programs from different state and federal mandates. I wonder if it makes sense to go ahead and take action on creating this board now, but putting in its work program, dialoguing with the Jefferson planning unit and RIA 16, and looking at our overall programs, and maybe coming back to us for some recommendations for whether we could move towards some sort of consolidated both advisory board structure, as well as how we coordinate these programs. And I know that that's been a thorny issue, even dealing with things like the Wood Canal Coordinating Council and the Puget Sound Partnership. And
that's exactly what I was just thinking. A discussion could be, part of the discussion could be with the Canal Coordinating Council, with the Eastern Straits Action Area, and at least as far as discussion goes.
I think I've been doing this type of work for years, and it kind of spins your mind how many different organizations and people are involved trying to do the same thing. How many planning efforts are running simultaneously, but slightly on different tracks. And so there's anything that Jefferson County to do to have its own program to deal with its own issues, obviously in concert and in consistency with other neighboring counties in the state, then that should be the overall direction, because that's what's going to best protect the shellfish harvest, in this county, and that's what's going to best protect public health in this county, is having its own program funded mostly locally to address, these issues.
So you, in your Clean Water District, you have it's funded by a parcel fee, is that correct?
Yeah,
and I'm curious how much that parcel
it's funded by a fee on residential parcels, and then there's a separate fee that's developed for commercial properties based on your percent of impervious surface, and it all gets put into one pot, and then it's broken out to the different partners that are involved in it, which is Public Works, Conservation District, Kitsap County Health District, Washington State Cooperative Extension, et cetera, et cetera. So what we have is it's a partnership that works together for the same goals, and we develop scopes of work on an annual basis to guide that. And those scopes of work are not, developed in a vacuum. We develop those together.
And what is your parcel fee, do you know, commercial as well?
I want to say, what I will say is the lowest of all the counties that have fees for stormwater utilities is the lowest in the state, I believe. I think it's like $68 per year or something like that. And it is the lowest one currently in the state. And I would venture to say it's the best bang for your buck of any program in the state for what people get.
I think that ours is $5.
Yours is $5.
Yeah.
Right.
Same thing.
Does yours include the urban growth area?
Pardon?
Does yours include, the parcel fees include the incorporated cities?
No, it's only unincorporated Kitsap County. All the individual cities are, they're covered under the phase 2 of the NPD, National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, permit system for stormwater, and they have developed their own fee structure for, to handle their own programs.
But you still have city representatives on.
Yes, because we want to make sure that stormwater management is done consistently throughout the county.
And commissioners, as you know, because the city and Fort